Hi everyone, my name is Bruce Jans. I'm the instructor, professor for Philosophy 5665, which is titled Knowledge, Responsibility, and Society, and I would like to give you a little syllabus run-through and course introduction in this video, just so you have some idea of what you are getting into. So welcome to class, first off. It's great to have you here. I've taught this class for a few years, and I always enjoy it because I think the issues in it are so central and vital to society in general and to the university in particular. So let's dive into the syllabus here. This is of course going to be downloadable from the web courses shell, so you can have your own copy. I want to pause on the title of the course for a moment because Knowledge, Responsibility, and Society is a course in the graduate certificate in Theoretical and Applied Ethics at UCF. And so it is an ethics course. That's very important to understand about it. But I think it's a particular kind of ethics course that I think is really significant in that it's not just an ethics course. It's not just a focus on, let's say, ethical theory or the application of ethical theory to specific circumstances. What it really is the meeting of three important and significant areas of philosophy. So let's take the three words in the title. Knowledge, well, that's what we in philosophy call epistemology. This is questions of knowledge. This is questions of how we come to know things, how we justify that knowledge, what we don't know, why that matters. It has to do with questions of science. Has to do with questions around expertise. Who is authorized to speak from a position of knowledge. So there are a lot of kinds of questions that come together in that general discussion around knowledge. The second word, responsibility. So that's the word which I connect most directly with ethics. Okay. When we talk about responsibility, we talk about individual responsibility quite often. Is someone responsible for their actions or aren't they? But we also talk about responsibility in larger collective senses sometimes. So government responsibility, corporate responsibility, responsibility of institutions such as, let's say, universities for certain kinds of outcomes, for delivering on certain kinds of promises, let's say, or preventing certain kinds of harms to individuals or to groups in society. And so that word responsibility captures quite a lot as well. And it's important to recognize that it's not just about ethical theory, although ethical theory may well be important and inform our questions of how to be responsible. It really is also about action. It's also about, what happens when we act. And to connect it with the previous idea of epistemology, action happens within the space of our knowledge, both our individual knowledge and societal knowledge. So then what happens when we have knowledge, that we lay claim to knowledge that we don't really have? What happens when we do have knowledge in society that we choose to not act on, either as individuals or as society at large? And so the question of action and responsibility really is very closely tied to the questions around what we know, what we ought to know, how we justify what we know, and those sorts of things. So third word, society. When I think of society specifically for this course, I'm interested in organizations, institutions. I'm interested in the sorts of spaces within society in which responsible action is enacted and in which knowledge happens. Okay, so one obvious one is one that we're currently in, which is the university. That's an institution of society. It has a history. It has its own practices, its own ways of assuring itself and others that the knowledge that it arrives at is indeed really knowledge and not just somebody's guess or somebody's wish fulfillment or somebody's political agenda. And so what happens within a university to make responsible knowledge possible? What happens when it's not occurring? What should people do? What can people do? This is true for universities, but it's true for medical institutions such as hospitals. It's true for journalists. It's true for in the political arena. It's true in every kind of social institution that we have. And so the point of this course is really to bring these three concepts together, to not just look at ethics as a thing that is divorced from the rest of the world or from our action, but is thoroughly embedded in it. We make choices in a real world, not in an ideal world. And so figuring out what ethics looks like within that space, I think, is what we're really after in this course. And so you can see in the syllabus here, I've listed a bunch of questions that kind of try and capture some of those things I just said. This is far from a exhaustive list of those questions. We could, I'm sure, multiply them ad infinitum. But it just gives you a little idea of the kinds of things that we might ask about once we start bringing these three concepts together and allowing them to, in some sense, define or influence how we deal with each other, how they deal with each other, right? So that's the plan for the course. Now let me introduce you to the texts of the course. The first one is this one. It's by Lorraine Code, Ecological Thinking, the Politics of Epistemic Location. Code has written a lot of different things. This is from 2006, so you might say, well, it's from a while back. But, really, I think Code just does a lovely job of at least raising the right kinds of questions about how ethics might work within an epistemological sphere and within a set of institutions. Code works from both a feminist and a environmental or ecological perspective. As with all texts that I get you to read in this course, my intention is not for you to simply believe it, but to think about it, to argue with it, to follow the trails, the questions that she raises. The point of any text that I put in front of you is really to kind of broaden the horizons of our conversation. Okay, so we're going to spend, I'm going to go through the schedule in a little bit, so you'll see how much time we spend on that. Another book that we'll deal with right at the end of the course is called The Misinformation Age: How False Beliefs Spread. If you think about it, the last few years of political and social upheaval over believing or not believing experts within the medical field or within other fields has been very, very prominent. And so we want to think a little bit about what it means to have beliefs, to have true beliefs or false beliefs, and what happens when false beliefs spread. So that's going to be right at the end of the course. Another, I guess you could call it text that we're going to deal with is this Presidential Commission for the Study of Bioethical Issues. This was a presidential commission under President Obama that looked at quite a large number of kind of pressing social questions having to do with bioethics. So if you go to the projects page that they have, you can see the kind of large-scale projects that they dealt with. We're only going to be able to deal with 3 of them, okay? Even though there's quite a few more available here. But there's, what they do is really assemble a large quantity of source material. They do a very good job of writing up the kinds of questions that are related to the issue at hand. And so I'm going to want us to look at this as a kind of attempt to do exactly what the course is trying to do, which is to place ethics within a space of knowledge production and within social institutions that we have. That's exactly what they were trying to do here. So this is a commission that's no longer on a federal site. It's on it's in an archive that's run by Georgetown University in DC. They grabbed it right at the end of the Obama administration because on pretty much day one of the Trump administration it was taken down, and you can't find it on the federal government site anymore. So we're going to go back to that archive and take a look at it, because I think it's just such an interesting and powerful way of getting at the central questions that we have in this course. So back to the syllabus. There is another text you can see right at the bottom here. and I'm going to talk about this further when we get to the part of the the schedule for the course, but I am going to ask you to do a choose your own text project as well. The reason I'm doing this is that I am very much aware that the people that come into this course most likely are coming in not from a philosophy background, but from some other scholarly or professional background. All of you are bringing things to this course that I don't know about, right? I mean, I've had nurses in this course, I've had police officers, I've had people in all sorts of medical fields, journalistic fields, people from faith, pastors and rabbis and things. I mean, I've had people from all over the place, and each one of these represents a huge area of expertise that I will not lay claim to. What I want to do, though, is to help you bring the course material into the space that you are familiar with. And I want to give you the opportunity to explain to the rest of us how the questions that we're raising in this course appear, how they become relevant in the area that you know best. And so that's why I'm asking you to do a choose your own text, because that gives you the opportunity to choose something that is in your area, and then using the material from the course, focus in on just how some of these issues arise within your own setting. So that is that part of the syllabus. Let's look at the format for a second. So it will be a seminar, as most graduate courses are. It's an online seminar, which means that unlike many graduate courses in person, we don't have a specific time when we all gather around a table and hash through the material. That's unfortunate because those are quite rich times quite often. But it will mean that I've set it up so that we can at least have some version of a conversation around the discussion points of the week. Now, when I say week, I want to define what I mean by that, okay? Because it's going to become relevant for discussions and seminar presentations and so forth. You are watching this, no doubt, in the first module. That module is a very short one. It goes Monday to Tuesday. It's really just the intro to the course. It's not meant to talk about any actual content in the course. Modules in this course open on Wednesday mornings, and they run to the following Tuesday evening. Okay, and by Tuesday evening, I basically mean 11:59, at night. The reason we don't do 12 o'clock is that it messes with the Canvas software and it gets a little confusing. So 11:59 on Tuesday night is the closing time of a module. The modules will stay up for the whole course, so you'll be able to go back and look at stuff. So it's not like they close down, but everything that happens for a module happens within that space of that week. Okay, so what happens? Well, as I mentioned, there will be discussions. Each module will have a discussion page. I'm asking you to do at least 2 posts. So the first post needs to be done by the Saturday evening of the module. Okay, in my undergrad courses, I make this Friday evening, but I recognize that grad students often have day jobs. They often can't get to something before a weekend. So I'm asking for a first post on a module by the end of Saturday. Now, what does that post look like? Well, it's a response to the readings of the week. If there's a presentation in that week, the presenter will be asked to raise some questions of their own about those readings. I may raise questions about the readings in the discussion prompts. So there are a number of ways you can engage what we're talking about in the particular week. So I'm asking for 1 post that's an original post from you, that's a response. I'm looking for at least 1 post that's a response to someone else. I say at least 1 because you can make as many as you want, okay? If there's an interesting conversation going on, have at it. Feel free to have a good discussion. But I'm looking for at least 2 posts, and the second post needs to be done by the end of the module, which is the Tuesday evening, right? So you get the pattern here, right? There's module opens Wednesday morning. I'm looking for a first post by Saturday evening, and this second or however many others you're doing by the end of the module, which is Tuesday evening, the next Tuesday. So that's how we're going to handle that. I'm looking for posts that are, I guess I would say, substantial. In other words, I'm not looking for just somebody to just say, yay, I agree with you, or, this reading sucks, or, I mean, you can say this reading sucks, but I want a reason for it, right? I want you to kind of unpack that. I'm not looking just for gut reactions. I'm looking for a reasoned thought about things. So that's the discussion part of the course. So on to the seminar presentation. As with most graduate seminars, I'm looking for each of you to take responsibility for a presentation on one of the modules worth of material. We're going to look at the schedule in a moment, so you'll see what that looks like. That presentation can be in any one of a number of formats. Many people, probably most people, choose to do a PowerPoint. Some people have done videos. Some people have done like prezzies. That people have done other kinds of presentations. I'm open to whatever works for you. I do need that in before the module goes live. So if the module goes live on the Wednesday morning and you are the presenter for that module, I need it at least by the Tuesday evening so that I can incorporate it so that everyone can see it when the module goes up. Okay? So please have that deadline in your mind. And we, I'd like to make sure that everyone has the same chance to go through a presentation before, they actually are going to, make any comments in the discussion area or whatever. For a presentation at a graduate level, it is more than just a, here's what the authors say kind of situation. It's really part evaluation as well. You should feel free to say, here is this author that we're reading, and I think that this author has, missed something important, and here's what it is. Or this author is saying this, and this other author that we read 2 weeks ago said something else. Now we're going to have to wrestle with this and figure out, what's going on here, because these don't line up. Or maybe there's this other author that I know of that we're not even doing in the course, but that seems relevant to this. Now, how would these people line up? I mean, all of that is fair game. All of that's good. Okay? I'm looking for, scholarly authors in that. So if you're going to bring in somebody from the outside, it does need to be somebody that's coming with, more than just a gut feeling about something. I'm not really interested in the latest YouTuber who, has some, hot take opinion on something. I'm more interested in, somebody who's thought about something, has evidence, done research, all of that, and then can, provide some counterbalance to something that you might think is in one of the readings that isn't, quite right. So that's all good. So that's what I'm looking for in the seminar presentations. And to that end, I am going to ask you right away in this course to get me your top 3 modules that you would be willing to do a presentation on. When I get those from everyone, I can lay out the schedule, and I'll do that very quickly because I know people need to be able to plan their term. So if I have the top 3 from you, then hopefully I can hit everyone's top 1. And if I can't, if everyone says we all want to do this week, well, we can't have everyone do the same week, so I'll have to distribute people out around if that happens. But if you give me your top 3, we can usually figure it out. So that's seminar presentations. Let's continue on in this. I mentioned before the course Choose Your Own Text assignment. One thing about that is that there's going to be a place in the discussion in the relevant week where I'm asking you to upload that and others can look at it. There's also going to be a place for you to upload it in the assignment area. And you'll need to upload it in 2 places, in other words. I need it in the assignment area so I can give you a grade for it, as we have in the syllabus here. But I also want you to put it in the discussion area for everyone else to see so that we can learn from each other so that we can be exposed to your area of expertise and how all of this stuff might be relevant there. All right, so finally, the final paper. As you can see here, I've got some things attached to that. Number one is a prospectus that I'm asking you to turn in 1 month before the paper deadline. So you can see what the paper deadline is, which is the last day of classes. I will have to be sure I got that date right. I thought it was the 24th actually. Oh yeah, that definitely is wrong. So, excuse me. So it's going to be April 24th, 2023. I'll change that in the version of the syllabus that goes live. So I'll want a prospectus, and I'll show you what I mean by a prospectus, you know, in the assignment area for this. The last module before you hand it in, there's also going to be an opportunity to post a short descriptive post about what you are doing. Then the reason for that is to get other people's reactions to what you're doing. You know, maybe somebody says, "Hey, I just read this interesting book that might be relevant. You might want to take a look at it." Or, you know, you want to claim this and you want to use that as evidence. How does that line up? I don't really see that. Or, you know, my hope is that between the prospectus, which you're going to get back with my comments, and you know, posting about it, which you'll get back with your classmates' comments, you will be able to write the best possible paper that you can. And that is, after all, my goal in this course, that you write the best paper that you can, that you do the best work that you can, right? I'm not trying to, you know, trip you up or you know, kind of get somebody to do some inferior work. The better work that you can give me, the happier I am. So that's what we're doing there. And so let's take a quick look at the excuse me, schedule. So what you'll see in the schedule here is, just as I said, the first module, Module 1, is January 9th, and then that's for 2 days. And so what you'll see for the first few weeks here, the first 4 modules, is a kind of quick overview of a number of central authors, mostly in Western philosophy, but also outside of Western philosophy. I am fully aware that relatively few people coming into this course are going to come in with a lot of philosophy background. Some of you might have that, and that's great if you do. But I'm quite aware that many of you are coming in with other kinds of expertise and other kinds of training. And so I want to bring you up to speed on some of the kind of assumptions that might exist around questions of epistemology, ethics, and social organization. And so, you know, I've chosen a number of figures, you know, 3 kind of Western figures. Then in each week we also have somebody from a non-Western perspective. My own areas of interest include African philosophy, and so Africa is definitely well represented in this. So those first weeks are really kind of, you know, laying down some kind of foundations for the kinds of questions we can deal with. From there, we go into 3 weeks on Lorraine Code's book, which I showed you already. From there, we go into 3 weeks on the Presidential Commission studies. So there's the Gray Matters 2, topics at the intersection of neuroscience, ethics, and society. Ethics in Ebola, which I wanted us to look at given that it's essentially a pandemic. And then finally, ethically impossible STD research in Guatemala from 1946 to 48. So very much ethics of doing research on marginalized populations. From there, we look at, you know, the module where you do your own text is there. And then finally, the last 2 weeks are the O'Connor and Weatherall book on misinformation that we're going to look at. So that's the kind of, you know, pattern for the course. Pretty straightforward, I think. After that in the syllabus, the largest part of the syllabus is what I call my fine but important print. And so I'd like you to read through that. A lot of the questions about the structure of the course are answered in there. There are a lot of resources linked as well. So you can go through that. So there's comments on standards for papers. This is going to be updated as well, by the way, once we, once it gets loaded up into the course shell. So this there are a couple more things to go in here yet, but electronic submissions of papers, that's not really relevant to an online course. Everything is an online submission, obviously, but there's stuff on writing help, absences, classroom behavior, flexibility, digital tools, and so you can see a lot of different kinds of issues that I address here. It's long. It reads sometimes a little bit like a legal document, but that is the kind of overview of the syllabus. So if you have questions about that, please feel free to contact me or raise it within a discussion area. But I think that should pretty much cover what we're going to be doing in the course. So I really, as I said at the beginning, I love teaching this course. I'm really glad that you're in it, and I hope that we have a great time in this class. There's such important issues that we're going to be dealing with, and I think as we look at those, I hope it makes your own research richer and gives you some new kinds of questions, no matter what area you're coming from. So anyway, that's the kind of intro. So welcome to class.